What's up, everybody? GeauxBurns welcoming you to another episode of our Discuss series. Today, Mafia 3 expansion ideas. Now, I did a video a few weeks ago called Discuss Mafia 3 sequel prequel ideas, which was about potential ideas for sequel or prequel to Mafia 3. So this is focused more on expansion ideas for Mafia 3. Now, bear in mind, there's only going to be, as far as I know, officially 3 expansions coming to Mafia 3, which include, in a few weeks from now, Faster Baby, then this summer, the last 2, which will be Stones Unturned, as well as Sign of the Times. So most likely, we're only getting 3 expansions to Mafia 3, but it's always fun to see what you guys come up with, as always. And of course, you had till last Friday to submit your ideas. So thank you, everybody, for submitting your idea for this week's Discuss video. And for next week's Discuss video, stay tuned to the end of this video to find out what it's going to be. Let's go alphabetically. First to Twitter, Brian. Hi, GeauxBurns. My idea for Mafia 3 expansion involves a young Sammy. That would be interesting. Yes, Brian, that would be very interesting. Now, quick refresher. Sammy Robinson is the leader of the Black Mob. He's also the owner of Sammy's Bar. He is the father of Ellis and the adopted father of Lincoln Clay. And it would be very fascinating to see a younger Sammy, what he was like, what led him to become the leader of the Black Mob in Delray Hollow. What was he like when he was growing up? What experiences did he go through? Probably some good, probably some bad, most likely. And led him to be the man he is, where he met his wife, of course. And when they had Ellis and, the dreams they had for the community in Delray Hollow, it'd be very fascinating to see it from Sammy's point of view, leading up to the return of Lincoln Clay from the Vietnam War. Next, we go to Elaine off of YouTube. This is probably going to sound weird, but I'd like to see an expansion on Father James. In the game, he mentions the truth on why he became a priest because of what he did in the army and what it turned him into. I think it would be nice to take a look into his life and see how the military shaped him. We would also be able to see Lincoln in the orphanage and see him in a perspective that Father James saw him growing up. I think it would be nice to have a little tie-in to the story and their backgrounds. Excellent idea, Elaine. And just like with the Sammy prequel expansion idea that Brian had, this also ties into another very important character in Lincoln Clay's life, Father James. And I believe, if I remember from Let's Playing Mafia 3, that Father James did serve in the army in World War II, and he did some pretty bad things. I mean, they were obviously fighting the Nazis in Europe, and I think, he has regrets about, killing people, and it's one of the reasons why I believe he went into the priesthood. And of course, he ended up being in charge of the orphanage before it got shut down, and, Lincoln was an orphan, and that's when Father James came into his life. He raised Father James up to a certain point, and then I think after the orphanage shut down, then I think Lincoln Clay went to go live with Sammy and Ellis in Delray Hollow. So it'd be kind of cool if we saw like an expansion prequel, maybe, revolved around 2 characters, like a Sammy James prequel. And they probably have some history, Father James and Sammy Robinson. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how they interact with each other. And it would be kind of a cool idea. I think you take 2 ideas, you put them into one idea, and see a lot more of the backstory between both of them, as well as Lincoln. Fill in some of the gaps that are missing. Excellent ideas there, Elaine and Brian. Hopefully you guys don't mind me combining your 2 ideas, because it feels like they would fit pretty good together as one nice prequel. Next, we go to Joe Black. How about a card and weapon pack DLC? And they could add an arena type shoot 'em up to test the new weapons. Okay, so I mean, I don't know if this is really qualified as an expansion pack. Maybe like another quote-unquote free DLC. And you never know. Hangar 13 might be generous enough to put out another free update or 2. They haven't said they're not going to, so you never know. What a lot of people would like, including myself, is more vehicles in our fleet. And they don't have to be completely new vehicles either. They can be a lot of the vehicles that are currently driving around New Bordeaux. I mean, there's several muscle cars and sports cars I really like to see in my fleet. And it would be really sweet if I had the ability to take those vehicles and customize them, add them to Lincoln Clay's fleet. Or if there was just some way to unlock them, that would be really cool as well. Next, we go to Matt off of YouTube. My idea for a Mafia 3 expansion, assuming someone else will say Vito's story between 2 and 3. I would like to see a Marcono story DLC. In this, I think it would be really cool to play as Lucio Marcono, the deceased brother of Sal, and how the crime family first rose to power. Also think they should do a twist where Sal actually killed Lucio instead of Olivia, because towards the end of the DLC, the rest of the Marcono brothers think you would be a better boss than Sal. So we learned a little bit about the Marcono backstory, not just in the game, but in some of the promotional stuff leading up to the game, which I did cover last year. And one of the factors was that their dad was in debt to a crime boss, Giuseppe Carlo, I think. I could be wrong about that, but you know, the question is, did Giuseppe Carlo actually kill the Marcono's father? And the running theory is it was actually Sal Marcono that committed patricide. He killed his own dad, and I think that's even confirmed in the story. I believe I could be wrong about that one, but I think there is a mention about how he did kill his father. And, you know, he did it as kind of a false flag, blamed it on Giuseppe Carlo, and then rallied his brothers to go, you know, murder him and his lieutenants, thereby leaving a vacuum in New Bordeaux, which the Marconos filled with Sal Marcono in charge. Now, Lucio Marcono married Olivia, and she, of course, is the widow in the game. And the mystery is, did she kill him or did Sal Marcono kill him? Now, it's implied that she had something to do with her husband's death for whatever rhyme or reason. Maybe he was abusive to her, or maybe, you know, she just wanted him out of the way. I don't know. You know, I kind of like the idea, Matt, of it ending up being Sal that had Lucio killed, but not for the reason that you are suggesting. I think that what if he had a little tryst, a little thing going on with Olivia, and in the end it turned out Olivia was kind of manipulating Sal, and maybe Sal was jealous of Lucio, or Lucio found out and was going to make a big stink about Sal's affair with Olivia, and in return Sal killed his own brother. Maybe in a fit of rage, like Cain versus Abel or some shit like that. And I don't know why, but he decided to keep Olivia around. Maybe for some side action. I don't know. I never really felt like her character was fleshed out enough in that regard, but it would have been interesting if she would have been, you know, involved with Sal. But clearly, from what we know in the story of Mafia 3, I don't think she was. But it would have been fascinating if that would have been the case. Another thing I would have kind of liked would have been kind of a, I guess you could say, a little thing going on between Olivia and Georgie. Kind of like, what would you say it... I'm getting all my Greek mythology going on here today. Yep, yes I am. Now, what was it? Oedipus complex. I had to sit there for a moment and think about it. Yes, I had to dig deep in my brain to find that one. So yeah, kind of an interesting comparison, isn't it? Like Georgie and Olivia and Oedipus and his mom. Hey, it's all Greek. A very interesting idea, Matt. Yet another prequel idea for Mafia 3 expansion-wise. And you know what? They could do kind of like a 3-in-1. They could add a young Sammy, young Father James. You go and you spend some time with each of them. And then maybe you spend some time in the expansion as Lucio. Man, I don't know. I mean, it's just an idea. Maybe it wouldn't work if you put them all three together. Maybe you should have a Lucio Marcono backstory DLC along with Olivia, how he met her, what she was like when she was a little bit younger. I don't know. But anyways, a fascinating idea. Matt, let's move on to the next one from RMI Players. A Vito DLC. See, I knew finally we would get somebody that would come forward with a Vito update. A Vito expansion to Mafia 3. Of course there was going to be one. A Vito DLC in Burke and Cassandra. Vito, I think, would be good before everything after Mafia 2. Before he met Alma and, of course, Marcono. Now, I think he probably would have met Marcono first, because he was exiled from Empire Bay and sent to New Bordeaux to work for Marcono. So I get the feeling that one of the first things that Vito probably did whenever he flew down to New Bordeaux was he went to go meet with Sal Marcono, have a discussion with him. You know, Leo probably went with him. kind of like smooth things over, made introductions, say, hey, Sal, this is Vito, Vito, Sal. Vito's going to be working with you now. And Sal's like, oh, hey, Vito, how's it going? Oh, hey, Sal, how you doing? And that's how that relationship began. And, of course, Vito probably said goodbye to Leo. Leo went back to Empire Bay. And then, that probably would be a good point where you would start the Vito backstory in Mafia 3 when, it's just like maybe a week or two after the events of Mafia 2. And he's having to work for Sal Marcono. And he's starting off kind of like as just a lieutenant, Nothing special, But eventually Sal does ultimately end up giving him the River Road District. But there's some, tension there. And it's not all Vito, though, because it always seems like it's just Vito's always the victim. But what if Sal genuinely tried to, make Vito fit into his organization, but Vito just had so many issues. Plus, he heard stories about what Vito and Joe did up in Empire Bay, killing not one but two mob bosses. By the way, if I'm spoiling Mafia 2 for you guys, I'm sorry, or Mafia 3, you've had plenty of time to play both games. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, I think it would be fascinating if there was a Vito expansion. I think people would care way more for a Vito expansion backstory than a Burke or Cassandra, because they didn't really like each other leading up to the point of the sit down with Lincoln Clay, and they didn't really like each other afterwards either. But I'm sure you could introduce Burke and Cassandra into the story as well and see how he interacted with them and the antagonism nature that they all three had towards each other. That'd be fascinating to see as well in a Vito prequel expansion update to Mafia 3. All these are prequel ideas, so maybe they should just do a big old prequel to Mafia 3, set between the events of Mafia 2 and 3 and just revolve it around all these various characters that we're talking about. Next, we go to Young Knight off of Twitter. GeauxBurns, kind of hard to say because of the content ideas we discuss. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video regarding the Mafia sequel prequel ideas video we did. Those ideas are for prequels and sequels to Mafia 3. This is all about, potential expansion ideas that may or may not happen. Most likely won't happen for Mafia 3, but it's still fun to think about. And the expansion idea that Young Knight wants is a Lost Heaven expansion. Now, I played Mafia 3. And unfortunately, not once, to my recollection, was Lost Heaven mentioned. To my chagrin, obviously. Chicago was mentioned, which is what the Mafia 3 universe's version of Chicago is supposed to be. But there was no Lost Heaven. So, I don't know. I mean, the Bill Harms and Hayden Blackman and the rest of the team at Hangar 13 may have written Lost Heaven out of existence in the Mafia-verse as far as we know. I mean, I'd still like to believe that Lost Heaven exists, and obviously, unfortunately, Chicago exists too, and New York exists because they mentioned New York, they mentioned Seattle, they mentioned a few other real towns and cities. So you have these real cities mixed in with these fictional cities in the Mafia-verse, which includes Empire Bay, New Bordeaux, and maybe, just maybe, Lost Heaven as well. But it'd be really cool if there was a Lost Heaven expansion, even though I don't see that happening, but at the very least, as I've mentioned time and time again, and I'm going to do it once more because you never know who might be listening, just like I said at the beginning of the video, I would very much like a Mafia remaster, which is obviously based in Lost Heaven. Thanks for the idea, Young Knight. Now, I said I was going alphabetically, and I kind of lied because I skipped over somebody intentionally. So Dan, who this time emailed me his idea, GeauxBurns@gmail.com. You can always email me your ideas as well. If, there's not enough room in Twitter, or if you don't feel like posting it in the comments section or messaging me via the Facebook page, you can always email me your discuss ideas. Okay, so here we go with Sedan and his latest novel. I had thought about putting together a video trailer for my idea, but that's beyond my video editing skills with the Movie Maker. So instead, I tried to replicate the writing style of an official Mafia 3 expansion post. I'm sorry, but it did not end up being a bit of a novel. It's a couple paragraphs. And that's perfectly fine. Just like I mentioned last week, as long as it's focused on one idea, it's okay to be a few paragraphs. I just don't like multiple ideas from one person. It just gets a little confusing. And, I like the idea of one idea per person. But anyways, continuing. You've killed Sal Marcono and taken over New Bordeaux. You're the new boss in town, and it's time you act like it. In the next expansion to Mafia 3, you get to explore the new title of Mob Boss, with a host of new content and game features sure to improve and extend your stay in the Bourbon City. Dress like a boss. Mafia 3 is all about choices you make, and one of the choices should be how Lincoln Clay. With this new expansion, expect a lot of new additions to your wardrobe, from leather jackets inspired by Vito and Joe's adventures in Empire Bay to classic tailored suits. You're the most powerful man in New Bordeaux, and it's time you start dressing like it. Live like a boss in the depths of the bayou. Lincoln Clay has repurposed an old plantation house to serve as his headquarters. You stole my idea, Dad. That was my idea. Mine. So I'm counting that as my idea. It's all good. I don't care. With the war against Sal Marcono over, it's time to get around to personalizing this plantation and getting it to live life like a boss. Customize it to your taste. Choose from a wide variety of styles, from a classic southern mansion to a super psychedelic pad, complete with bead curtains, radios playing the grooviest tunes ever heard. Also included in the garage where you can view any vehicle in your fleet. New interactions in the world of New Bordeaux. Stock up on the ammo in your mansion armory. Take a nap to pass a few hours in game. Or have the chef prepare a bowl of gumbo to refill your health. Now that you don't have to worry about the Italians, enjoy the finer things in life. I mean, come on, he has Italians in his ranks. I mean, Vito for one thing. I mean, he still has Italians around, but I guess they're friendly Italians. They're allies. They're not Marcono's Italians. I get it. Ride in style. Mafia 3 offers an expansion selection of automotive designs inspired by the classics of the 1960s. With the Mob Boss expansion, you'll be able to own any vehicle in the game, personalize your new valet fleet, and drive what you want when you want it. You didn't take over the city so you could drive around the same two cars. In all fairness, come on. There's maybe 10 cars now, 10 or a dozen so. So, I mean, yeah, it could be a larger fleet, but we have more than 10 cars. That was a mean. Just mean. Meet your newest associate, the chauffeur. Oh, come on, I don't need no damn chauffeur. Okay, maybe I do because I suck at driving, obviously, and racing. But that's besides the point. Available at your Bayou Mansion and all your racket headquarters, the newest member of your crime family is a driver who will happily bring you wherever you want in New Bordeaux, in the complete comfort of your own personal limousine. This helps you get around the city quickly and easily when you want a little break from the bumper-to-bumper traffic of the city. So I guess the chauffeur in the limo would serve as a fast travel option. I like the idea. I do. I think that's one thing that a lot of us have been asking for is fast travel. I mean, I don't want it overdone where you can just fast travel wherever you want, but at the very least, the hideouts. You know, so you could go see Vito or go see Burke or go see Cassandra, one of the other racket locations. You know, that way you get from point A to point B a lot faster. So I definitely like the idea of having a chauffeur. I like all this, by the way. And, oh yeah, the banner that I've been featuring, that was made by Sedan, FYI. A little fan art for our reading pleasure. By the way, if you guys ever have fan art, feel free and send it my way. I love fan art. Fight for control. You've taken out Sal Marcono, the former boss of New Bordeaux, but that doesn't mean that there aren't still people out there who think that they can challenge your reign. Show them who's boss when they make the mistake of attacking your racket across city. These random events, along with assassination attempts, give you the opportunity to show everyone that you're still a badass, even though you've traded in your army jacket and jeans for a silk suit and tie. Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that kind of disappointed me. Like, you had, what's his name, Sant'Angelo, and they called him the assassin. They kind of worked him up, and I thought it would be a lot cooler going up against Sant'Angelo, but I easily killed him. I mean, he caught me one time, admittedly, but the next time I got his sorry ass. And he was just like a character that was out of a Quentin Tarantino movie. Spend some dough. You've worked hard to make a fortune, so the time's come to spend it on something other than guns and ammo. Swing by a bar for a quick glass of whiskey and get a plate of scrambled eggs at the Briar Patch. You run New Bordeaux, so it only makes sense that you get to interact with it. A restructured police system. The New Bordeaux Police Department is no longer under the control of Sal Marcono, which means the time has come to see a little bit of justice in the Bourbon City. No longer will cops shoot on sight. Instead, they will say hello to a progressive crime system with 3 levels of the police involvement, a warning for minor offenses like car crashes, arrests for crimes such as car theft, and lethal force for when you're being on your rowdy side. Yeah, I mean, they always talked about in the game how the police were going to feel intimidating. And they are if you provoke them, if you get into a firefight with them. And yes, they do say racial slurs, unfortunately. But compared to the way the police were in Empire Bay and Mafia 2 and Lost Heaven in the first Mafia game, where they'll pull you over for speeding or getting into a wreck, yeah, the police are rather tame by comparison when it comes to that. Because, hell, anytime a cop pulls you over in a video game, that says something, because that's what happens in real life, to me at least a couple times. So yeah, that's a pretty good expansion idea, Sedan. One of your best ideas yet. I like a lot of the stuff, including the mansion, obviously, because that's something I really, really wanted added to the game. And the chauffeur system's really good. I like the ability to go from point A to point B. And I like the fact that the city's not entirely under his control, that there's other factions out there that are trying to rise up with the absence of Sal Marcono in order to take Lincoln Clay down. I would like very much maybe like a nephew of Sal Marcono or a niece of Sal Marcono, because he had several brothers, and you think the brothers would have some other kids running around out there somewhere. So I get the feeling that not all the Marconos are dead. Maybe one of them tries to rise to power, and maybe you have the Cubans to deal with, or you have the Triads, something like that. It'd be kind of cool if there was new factions that rose up in New Bordeaux to challenge Lincoln Clay. But like I said, awesome ideas, everybody. Thank you so much, everyone, for submitting your ideas as always. And if you want to be part of next week's Discuss video, here is what it's all about. Best gaming series. That's right, very simple. Let me know what you think has been the best gaming series. And if you want to expand on it a little bit and say, this is the best gaming series in my opinion, this is why I think it's the best gaming series, give me some fond memories of you playing the games in the specific series or franchise. Tell me the first time you played this game or you heard about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your ideas and your story regarding your favorite video game series. So feel free and leave that below in the comments section, via Twitter, Facebook, or email. GeauxBurns@gmail.com. Do it by this Friday in order to be included in next week's Discuss video.